Welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Wednesday, August 5. The Integrity in Public Life Bill failed to get the nod in the Senate today. The bill, meant to deter and punish corruption by politicians and senior public officers, as well as chairmen and high-ranking managers of state-owned enterprises, failed to secure the two-thirds majority required. A few members of Senate were not present today, and when the vote was taken, 10 senators voted in favor, 2 abstained. The Constitution mandates a two-thirds majority, that is, 14 votes, in order for the bill to be passed. The development followed heated exchanges in the upper chamber after some members voiced strong objections to a decision to allow Minister of Tourism and International Transport Senator Lisa Cummins to return to the House. Senator Cummins was among several government officials and media personnel who were advised to isolate after attending last Thursday's welcoming ceremony for 95 nurses from Ghana at the Grantley Adams International Airport. 9 of the nurses tested positive for COVID-19 at the weekend. Senator Cummins was, however, cleared to return to work today by the chief medical officer, who advised that her COVID-19 test was negative. But this did not sit well with opposition Senator Caswell Franklin and independent Senator Monique Tate.
This ain't 14 days yet, so this doctor needs to retire or resign from the public service. He is influenced, and if she comes, I gone, Because I'm not staying in here with somebody who they're told to stay in quarantine for 5 days or 7 days. The international standard is 14 days. I am not going to stand in here and breach any standards when it comes to my health.
I believe that Senator Cummins coming in here is premature. This morning, the Honorable Prime Minister had a press conference. She had persons with her, Dr. Ford, the gentleman in charge of the monitor unit, Mr. Chapman. She had 2 other Mr. Dr. Gay from the hospital, who's the chief person at the hospital, the doctor, and another person I can't remember. But Minister Bostic was part of the meeting via Zoom. He is still home. He was part of the meeting via Zoom. So if he could not be there, even though the press conference was advertised that it was going to be the Prime Minister and the Minister of Health, and he did his part via Zoom, what is Senator Cummins doing coming here? I am concerned, Mr. President, and I wish to be a part of the vote with the Integrity and Public Life Bill, but I do not want to know how Harrison Point is. I think it is dangerous, I think it is selfish, and I think that Senator Cummins ought not to be here simply because we do not know.
Franklin Tate and opposition Senator Crystal Drakes walked out of the chamber. Senator Cummins, however, addressed the matter.
Over the last 4 months, in a previous life, I happened to be chairman of the Bridgetown Port. Mr. President, we saw through the process of, through February 27th up until the time I left the port, 22,000 crew members being repatriated. I was present in the port for many of them. Mr. President, many people do not know and they have not seen the instances where we have interacted in the course of public duty. We have had instances in the port, Mr. President, where passengers were being repatriated and were struggling, and we briefly facilitated them. Mr. President, we have seen in more than one instance, and many people in the public would not have seen, when Barbadian sailors, crew members returned home, and I have gone to the Bridgetown port on many occasions, and in the same way that we did last Thursday, masked up, socially distant, and maintaining all of the protocols that are set in place by the government, I did not find myself unwelcome in any space, and I did not have a COVID-19 test, Mr. President. I did not find myself unwelcome after processing and treating to over 22,000 crew members and sitting in this place, unwelcome, scorned, facing a stigma, and I did not have a COVID-19 test, negative test. I did not have one, Mr. President. But here it is that we are talking about how we use the privilege of this space. I today have had a COVID-19 test, the first one. I didn't have one in February, I didn't have one in March, I didn't have one in April, I didn't have one in May, and I didn't have one in June. And my risk exposure, low though it may have been, was identical for all of those times, Mr. President, and I walked in and out of this chamber among my colleagues without scorn or ridicule. but today it has prompted a walkout with a COVID-19 test. I shudder to think, Mr. President, what a person who has actually had COVID is faced with in this country today.
Health and Wellness Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic was among the officials also advised to isolate. At a news conference today, he revealed that his test was negative.
The test result is as I expected, which is negative, and that is because all of the protocols which I'm enforcing, I followed those protocols, and I felt very, very confident that everything was done properly by the entire team that was with me. And so I was not surprised by the negative result.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley today assured Barbadians that the island's COVID-19 travel protocols have been working. There have been growing calls for government to make it mandatory for travelers to Barbados to arrive with negative COVID-19 test results. But speaking during today's press briefing about a sharp jump in COVID-19 cases over the weekend, Mottley blamed the significant demand for testing in several countries for making it difficult to access COVID-19 tests in a timely manner.
Even if we tested 24 hours before, there would be a risk for the 24 hours. And that is why our team here, and I want to commend them for it, strongly recommended that the government of Barbados for high-risk countries will test within 7 days of arrival to Barbados, because that period of risk between when you tested and when you reach here, that we recognize that the incubation period of 2 to 6 days may mean that even if you have a negative result, you can have a positive within 2 to 6 days of your exposure. That is why Minister Bostic and Minister Cummins and others are at home this week, because their exposure would have been at that point, and even though they've tested negative, the CMO is saying give it another day or two in order to complete fully the 7 days. Now, we do that recognizing that this is the best way to manage risk.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now. In Guyana, the remaining members of President Dr. Irfan Ali's new cabinet were sworn into office today, and he promised his administration will be transparent in dealing with the country's affairs.
These ministers will be held accountable not only by the executive, the parliament, but more importantly, by the people of this country. I expect that this team will be results-oriented, that this team will work in an efficient and transparent manner. The multifaceted nature of the skill sets that comprise the team is what I believe Guyana requires in ensuring we fulfill the aspirations of all the people of this country.
On the international scene, there's word that drug makers will likely have tens of millions of doses of coronavirus vaccines in the early part of next year. It's coming from the U.S. top infectious disease official in a Reuters interview today.
The federal government has invested hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to make vaccine at risk. At risk doesn't mean at risk for safety, and it doesn't mean at risk for scientific integrity. It means at financial risk, because if the vaccine works, you've saved multiple months. If the vaccine doesn't work, you've lost a lot of money. But the government feels that even if you lose that, it's worth doing it to get a head start on the production. So we likely are going to have maybe tens of millions of doses in the early part of the year. But as we get into 2021, the manufacturers tell us that they will have hundreds of millions and likely 1 billion doses by the end of 2021.
There's concern among the general public that a vaccine's going to get introduced before the risks are fully known. How will you know about potential long-term side effects, and how can you reassure the public that the vaccines are going to be safe?
I would want to feel comfortable when I've had enough people in the trial that I get a good efficacy signal and a good safety signal. And that means you've done thousands of people and you don't see any unanticipated, unexpected, severe adverse events.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.